participants. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to each one of you. As we know that you are participating in this online Satyasai Education in Human Values Course 1 from all around the world. My name is Elena Rodríguez. I live in Madrid and I am a member of the coordinating team of this precious event. I am going to be your facilitator for today's session. I am really happy to introduce the session of today, which is session 7, and I'm going to tell you why. Along the 6 previous sessions, we have learned that there are 5 human values which are latent in every human being, that we need to turn our vision inwards to know ourselves, to be aware of the real meaning of these values, and realize that when we know and practice these values, we can have a meaningful and fulfilling life. We can compare the 5 human values with seeds that we have inside our spiritual hearts and need to be nurtured and be given the right conditions to help them grow and develop to their full potential. And now that we are tuned in with this essential knowledge, we ask ourselves, how can we do this? How can we translate the 5 human values into actions, words, thoughts, feelings in our interaction with the world and our everyday life? Well, this is exactly what our 2 speakers for today are going to help us discover with the cultivation of character. Before introducing you to our first speaker of the morning, I would just like to remind all participants to keep your microphones muted and cameras turned off during the presentation to ensure a smooth ongoing program. We will also have time for a short question and answer session at the end of the presentation. So please take note of your questions on a piece of paper, and you can then write them in the chat box in the questions and answer part. It is my honor and delight to introduce you to our first speaker of the session. She is Suzanne Palermo. Suzanne Palermo was born in the United States of America and moved to Italy when she was 12. She completed her studies at the Academy of Fine Arts of Rome and later moved to Milan, where she worked at the editorial field for children as an illustrator and project designer on a freelance basis. Since 1996, she lives in the Italian canton Ticino of Switzerland. Suzanne first heard about Satyasai Education in Human Values in 1989, and since the very beginning, adopted the program in her professional work and as a life compass. She has been endeavoring ever since to develop value-oriented material for children, stories, songs, activities, and material support for teachers, parents, and all those willing to foster in their students and families a human values education and a deeper perspective into life's marvels and mysteries. She is the author of the book, The Story of Marty, A Journey on Planet Earth. She has developed didactical material rotating around this ongoing project and launched a website container to share part of this material in 2013. Additionally, she has published a variety of articles dedicated to human values, both online and through a local Swiss magazine since 2016. Suzanne is part of the editorial team of the 3wsvaluestransform.org, an international website that aims at spreading Satyasai education in human values to more and more people. She has been collaborating for many years with the Institute of Satyasai Education of South Europe of which she is a member, contributing also to the development of the Educare magazines and the Institute's handbook, and has participated in many seminars in South Europe as a speaker. Since 2019, she collaborates with the Swiss Peace Forum that is held in Lugano, offering workshops to students from elementary to high school age. And she is the co-founder of the open space Arte e Valori, which is an initiative carried out with her husband and is situated in Ljubljasko. The space organizes free exhibitions, cultural meetings, and human values workshops for children, to which all are welcome, from art lovers to children, with special attention to the elderly and people with disabilities. Dear Suzanne, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena, so much for this very warm and friendly welcome. And hello, everyone. Good morning to all of you. Allow me to please connect to my screen so we can begin spending some time together today. So I think that we are connected. Okay. So again, good morning to everyone. It's really a pleasure and an honor for me to be with you today again, to spend some time together and share some understanding and my experience with this incredibly important topic, which is character. And I began to learn more about character. I became more conscious and more aware of what it means when I did learn about the ISSE-SE Education in Human Values program, which, as Elena was saying, is quite a few years ago. I immediately, perhaps like many of you, heard that the founder of the program, ISSE-SE, would often stress how character is the end of education. And as I became more involved in the program, as I experimented with it and experienced it, and as I began to deepen the meaning of the values, trying to find ways to interpret them and translate them into practical and meaningful activities for children, I realized that character is the program. And character is something that we desperately need today. We are facing a world that is rapidly changing, and we are confronted with huge challenges. And when we look around, we can see very easily how much turmoil is surrounding us, and that our outer reference points are failing, and many of our social models are faltering. So it is becoming more and more important to go within and to be able to rely on an inner fulcrum, an inner axis, which can provide us the steadiness we need, which can provide us with some insights, inspiration, if this fulcrum is based on values. It can provide us with ideals to pursue and a sense of meaning for our lives. And it can also provide us with the understanding of how we can behave and interact in society on the basis of these values. And this is why it is becoming and is definitely extremely important to help our children today and the younger generation to understand what character means, what it implies, and how to build a good character. Because we will see during today's presentation that character confers three important and incredible things to all of us, which are stability, nobility, and ability. So we will begin by defining what character is. And we have said that character is something that we build. And we have said that it is based on qualities that emerge, that are the outcome of one's principles and moral values. Now, the Oxford Dictionary says that these qualities are what enable us, are what confer us the ability to deal with challenges, difficult and dangerous situations. However, character is the measure of how embedded these qualities are within us. Excuse me. It is the measure of how ingrained these qualities are. We could say it is the measure of our practice. And as we do build our character, we realize that we become responsible, sensitive, and accountable people. And we all also understand how character, this inner axis, this fulcrum, is the backbone of our self-assurance and self-confidence. And it goes without saying that human values are the foundation of a good character. But let's see what the founder of the program says about character. We have said that he has stressed how character is the end of education. However, he has said many other very, very beautiful things about character. He has said that character is the fragrance of a flower. And he has said that character is power. He has said that character is the hallmark of a human being, which means that it is the distinctive trait of a human being, which means that without character, a human being is not human. And he has added that a life without good character is a shrine without a light. And it is a coin that is counterfeit, which means that it's useless, it's fake. And he has said, and this is the one I like best, that it is like a kite with a broken string. So these images are very important and say more than many words. So he ends by saying that if character is lost, everything is lost. So we reach this point of asking ourselves about lack of character. What exactly does this mean? It means lack of unity. And we have said that if character, and we know, is the measure of how embedded human values are within us, lack of unity means that they are not embedded sufficiently, that there is no consistency between what we think, what we say, and what we do. It means that sometimes we say something, we do something else, and maybe our thoughts do not respect what we think and what we do. And of course, this makes us feel very insecure, very unbalanced, and at times even weak. So we need to build these connections. We need to bring the values within us, make them rooted within us, and make them strong and embedded within us. And to do so, we need to work on unity of thoughts, words, and actions, which is, by the way, the definition above all the rest of character. And it is the definition that the Satyasai Education in Human Values program adopts. So the end of education is unity of thoughts, words, and deeds. So how can we build our character? What does this mean? We can help ourselves with the root meaning of character, which comes from the Greek word karasso, which means to engrave and to inscribe. And when we think of engraving or inscribing, I'm sure many of us think of a slate of stone with an antique scripture. Now, how did we get that onto the stone? Of course, we have to carve into it. And we have to carve into it and repeat that action over and over until we finally create an indent, until we finally engrave and inscribe what we would like to engrave and inscribe. And when it gets that deep, it becomes indelible, it becomes permanent. This makes me think of a record player that also goes around over and over and over. It plays the same music. It follows a path and a pattern. So what are we talking about? We're talking about habits, about how we build habits. And these habits are built by repeated actions. So we need to build good habits, habits that reinforce our consistency, our coherency, and our cohesion with the values. And we know that habits begin with our thoughts. And if we are talking about building a good character, we need to foster good thoughts. And this brings us to a very well-known and beautiful quote, which by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I'd like to read it a little bit differently with you. When we sow a good thought, we reap a good action. When we sow a good action, we reap a good habit. When we sow a good habit, we reap a good character. And when we sow a good character, we know this, we reap a good destiny. And we know, because we know all of this, all we need to do is practice. We know that a good character is founded and based and rooted in human values. And when they are embedded in our personality, they turn into virtues. So a good character shines with virtue. Now I'd like to go very quickly through a story I love very, very much that some of you may know. It is a bestseller by an American author. His name is Shel Silverstein. And the title, as you see, is The Missing Piece Meets the Big O. I've chosen this story because I feel it's important in the context of character, and it says a lot of important things connected to how we can build character. So this is our character, and it's the missing piece, and he is here waiting for someone to take him along somewhere. He's alone for the moment. And some individual come along, and as you see, they fit very nicely together. But his goal is to roll through life happily, freely, with lightness. And as you see, it is impossible for him to roll as he is now. So he meets other individuals, and now you see he can roll, but he doesn't fit properly. Doesn't feel very comfortable. So he waits for someone else. Other individuals come along. They have definitely too many missing pieces. That doesn't seem right. And some have too many pieces. But finally, one comes along that is different. And the missing piece says, "Who are you?" And this other character says, "I am the big O." And the missing piece says, "Oh, maybe I am your missing piece." The big O says, I am not missing any piece. So the missing piece says, oh, what a pity. I was really, really hoping that we could roll together throughout life. The missing piece says, well, there's no place where you would fit, but you can roll by yourself. So the missing piece answers, but roll by myself. I'm not shaped for rolling. I have sharp corners. And the big O answers, well, corners wear off and shapes change. And he says, well, perhaps we will meet again one day. So the missing piece is alone again, excuse me, and waiting and thinking and reflecting what to do until finally, one day, it lifted itself up on one end. And then it flopped over. And then it did it again. And then it flopped over. But as it began to do this, it began to move forward. And as it moved forward, as you see, its edges began to wear off and its form began to change. And finally, here it is, rolling. And as you see, he's about to meet the big O, so now they can roll together. So this story, of course, talks us about happiness and fulfillment. It stresses how many times, how we often look outside for that something or someone to come along to make us feel complete and whole, to help us find our integrity and our meaning in life. But it also shows that there is a process we can go through because this potential is within ourselves. And it says, when it comes to character, that we should never say, that's the way I am. Because we can always build new, what I'd like to call quality habits, and even become a big O. So this story is telling us, is explaining how character is a process. It's a process of self-understanding, of self-knowledge, and self-confidence. And one of the reasons for which I've decided to use this watch as a constant image on the slides you're seeing this morning is because this process takes a lot of time. If character is the fragrance of a flower, this does not happen the day after we plant the seed. As Elena was explaining, we need to care for the flower, give it the right conditions, and watch it grow and blossom as we participate in this process. And then one day it finally blossoms and blooms, and we can experience its fragrance, which is the essence of that initial seed. So character is a process of self-knowledge and self-confidence. And what is this process? It is 3HV. So here we have our missing piece, a triangle. What is the process the missing piece goes through as it lifts itself up and falls down and lifts itself up again and again until it does smooth out those sharp edges and it does unify itself? It takes its thoughts to its heart. And if the heart approves, it takes action. This is the process of building good habits. And this is something we know very well. Look what happens. The most important part of this process is coming now. We take our thoughts to our heart. Of course, we know that our heart is the treasure chest of human values. But this is what happens. The heart can send our thoughts back because maybe our thought is not in line with the values we believe in and we love so strongly. So the heart says, now take it back, do some introspection, refine your thought, your idea, and bring it back to me. So we do that. But sometimes, like the missing piece, the heart sends it back to us again. So this is just to say that it is a process that takes time until we do manage to unify our thoughts with our heart and act on them. We do manage to build this consistency and cohesion with our values. And to do this, to build new habits, we need, of course, a lot of discipline and perseverance. We need determination. We really need to want to get up when we fall. We need to start over and over again. Not start, excuse me. We need to try again and again because we are determined. We have the resolve to become one with the values we believe in. And we need discrimination. We need to understand why our heart is refusing a thought, why it is advising us to work at that thought and refine it and align it with the values. We need a sense of duty because this is our responsibility towards ourselves and others. We know how it can change our lives. And we need the yearning of devotion for the values we love so much. And this, as you see, builds interconnections, cohesion, it unifies ourselves and builds coherence. And coherence is cohesion, and it means that it builds what we can call a unified whole. So it is like putting the string on the kite. This process helps us learn to tune in and to connect to conscience. And it provides us with stability. And stability is associated to truth and right action. We become stabilized in our inner truth and act in accordance with it. And as we do this, we are reinforcing an inner structure which is based on human values. We are creating our fulcrum, our axis. And this confers nobility. And we can associate it to our heart and, of course, to the values of peace and love. And as we do this, we learn to express our true value. And this confers ability. And of course, is connected to all the values and leads to a culture of non-violence. So human values are the roots, starting with right action. Because to act on the thoughts that the heart has approved is right action. And we know that if there is righteousness in the heart, there is beauty in the character. And human values are the needle of our compass. And this is the needle. And they give us direction. They guide us to follow our conscience, to act accordingly. And this builds peace, because if I act on the basis of my inner truth, I'm in accordance with it. And there are no conflicts. So this, of course, builds inner peace and fosters peace all over. And it develops love for the self also, for conscience, because we learn that we can rely on this inner truth more and more. And all the values we know lead to nonviolence at all levels. So character is the outcome of all human values. And as I said at the beginning, character is the program, after all. Character is educare. It brings together, it unifies, and it builds this consistency, this coherency with what we say, think, and do. So it unifies what is outside, our personality, our form and name. And as we know, this is just half of the circle. It unifies it with what is inside, human values and our true essence. So we can complete this circle. And we know that we are unifying what is based on our senses and our mind with what is beyond our senses and our mind. And we are unifying what we can call outer research, because it's based on our perceptions and senses, with inner research, which is based on intuition. And we are connecting and unifying what is physical and material to what is metaphysical and spiritual. And we are unifying science and knowledge with conscience and wisdom. So we are bringing together information with inspiration. And as we do this, look what happens to us. We become a big O. And as we do this collectively, we are all working in the same direction. We can change the world. So now you may say, oh, how wonderful, how inspiring. But I'd like to say, this is really all useless. We can be heroes in words, but zeros in practice. So we need to practice. And this takes us to the next question, the most important question. As I wrote here, the big question. How can we practice? So I brought along a few ideas and some experience also with children. Of course, we can practice silent sitting. We have spoken about this with Marianne, with Esther Chris, how important it is to create a space for silence, for a pause, so that we can develop the habit of taking our thoughts to our hearts before we act. And of course, this helps us learn, it develops, it fosters and promotes concentration, which also, of course, means that we are unifying our thoughts, words, and deeds. Of course, we can train our senses and mind. We have seen this. To see good, hear good, speak good, be good. We can build these habits. Satya Sai has many times said, be positive, positive, positive. And that word really says it all. Of course, we can entertain good company. Good company, we know, does not only mean good friends with the same mindset, the same yearning for truth and goodness and beauty, but it means uplifting literature, elevating music, good, healthy food for us, and of course, a good connection with nature. And naturally, we can help ourselves build these good habits through the art of tuning head, heart, and hand. And naturally, we need repeated practice. If we are going to engrave the values and embed them more and more and widen the measure of the values within us, we need to practice. So we need to practice the values. I have brought only a few here that we won't go through. And then, of course, we can use stories, also when working with children. And we can, stories about people who have excelled in society, in the world, because of their good character, or even stories about people in our family, or relatives or friends that have impressed us because of their good character. And there are many. And we can also tell stories about what I call care actors. And this is one of my favorites. So we are coming to how we can do this also with children. For those of you who know me, you know that this character is Marty, and he has fallen on planet Earth and is looking for his way back home. And Marty has 3 antennas, which are his distinctive trait, the hallmark of his character. And they are green, yellow, and pink. Green corresponds to his physical, to his hands, yellow to his head, his thoughts, and pink to his heart, his feelings. And while Marty is on the planet, he asks some fundamental questions. He wants to know why he's here, where he's going, who he is. So he learns a lot about himself and about the world around him. And he learns about self-watching. He understands that he needs to learn how to unify, to align his antennas so that they cooperate. And when he does that, he also learns that he can bring his antennas within himself. And when that happens, his heart illumines his thoughts and he knows what to do. So Marty is a really nice way to talk about values with children and character with children. And I remember once a little boy came to a workshop that we were having, and that day we had talked about concentration, of course, using Marty and his antennas, how important it is to bring together thought, word, and deed. And the week afterwards, his mother came back with the little boy, and she told me, I have to tell you something. She said, you know, my son, during the weekend, he created a project. And it was an elaborated project because this little boy really liked to work with cardboard and paper and paint and glue. And he created something. And his mother was admired him and told him how wonderful it was. And he said, do you know, of course, he was very happy himself. And he said, do you know how I did that? And she said, how? And he said, well, I concentrated my antennas like Marty taught me to do. So this is just to say how even a cartoon character can be helpful for us when we want to talk about character with children. These are some antennas, a headband that was made by an Italian teacher. And since then we have been using them with the children so they identify more and more with their friend and role model who teaches coherence and integrity to them. And what does Marty have to say about character? He says, character is everything in life. When I listen to my heart, I feel good. Then I think good and I act good too. And then I am character. I am good. But sometimes things aren't so easy. I lose consistency. My thoughts, words, and deeds get disconnected. So I need to be determined to think character. Then my character will blossom into a fragrant flower. Apart from Marty, there are many other things we can do with children, bring them into our lessons, games, activities, songs. We said stories. And now I'd like to share a few of them, a few of those that I developed during the years. This is the character memory. Now we know that the game of memory normally has 2 cards with the same image that we have to match, 2 shoes, 2 hats. Here we have 3 images, as you see, heart, head, and hand, of the same color. So what the children need to do after they make the game, because they make it themselves, they color it, they cut it out, they need to bring together, they need to find a match for heart, head, and hand. And as they do that, they go over and over with the concept. And of course, this is done with a story. It's embedded into a lesson. And this is a game that is dedicated to character with questions and answers, and it finishes with giving the child a certificate of good character. We know stake and ladders. If we practice the values, we rise up. If we don't, we fall down. We have to begin again. This is the character pyramid, which I also use for self-confidence. What's important is that the children make it. It becomes like a sculpture reminder that they can put on their desk. And what's important is that they know that the pyramid stands up because of its basis. And the basis is character. So they need to select some values to work with to build their character and make it strong. And of course, this pyramid also resembles a mountain. So it's a good opportunity to talk about how mountains are stable and steady and unruffled in rain and snow and wind. And then this is another chart for monitoring how our head, heart, and hands, thoughts, words, and deed work during the day. So we can understand how these are simple human value cards that are excellent to work on values, to build our understanding of values. All we need to do is make them and pick a value every now and then, once a week, once a month. We can do this in the family. We can do this in our classrooms. We can even take our values to our office and put them there and ask our colleagues to pick a value and work with it. And this is, here it is, I forgot to prepare it. This is character flower, which of course, when head, heart, and hand are not united, there is no flower. So what happens is that we put them together and we have a flower. This is something we have done many, many times. And we have this character watch, which we have also used with adults. And as you see, the character watch has a heart in the middle, the three hands of the watch, heart, head, and hand, and everyone picks 6 values they would like to work on. And then this is actually a game. You throw the dice, and according to the number of the dice, you put the head, heart, or hand on that value, and that is what you need to build during a week or a month. And here are some pictures I thought of sharing with you, working also with the parents. This is a good habit chart, and which we can do. This is something that a mother did for herself. So of course she selected some habits, and you give yourself a grade, a vote. And again, after 3 days, her little daughter, she put it up on the refrigerator. Her daughter told her mom, I want one too. And so she was able to make a character good habit chart for her daughter as well. And here's the little boy who's playing with the memory game with his family. Glasses, love glasses, of course. There's the character flower. So we are almost getting to the end. Now, when it comes to sharing or transferring, helping children understand what character is, of course, the most important thing we need to do is to be an example. So the question now is, what is our degree of 3HV? What is our degree of character? And I'd like to answer this question, provide you with some inspiration by going through a passage taken from a book which is called Philosophy in the Classroom, which says, I will read it to you. When children want to know what is right, and they want to know, they don't necessarily ask you. They observe you. So let's say that they hear you talk often about honesty, and they notice that you respect others' property. They don't learn 2 things, but 3. They learn to advocate honesty, just as you do. They learn to respect others' property, just as you do. And they learn that one's actions should be consistent with one's thoughts and words, because that is what they see in you. But let's imagine going on a trip with them, and they see you pack up a couple of hotel towels when you leave. They always learn 3 things. They will continue to advocate honesty just like you. They will be unable to practice it just like you. And they will learn and believe that what one says, thinks, and does not need to be in line with one another, and that on the contrary, it is good and right to find an inconsistency between what you say and what you do. So it's very clear what we need to do. And this passage also stresses how character is a school of logic, because it helps the children and ourselves to formulate clear thoughts and ideas. It helps us follow a logical sequence, and for children, develop good reasoning skills. And of course, now this is a sum up. We have seen that character sows moral integrity, coherence with respect to our values, and how it is founded on truth, on our inner truth, and in direct relation with conscience, which is why it enables us with stability. And we have just seen now that our coherence is so important for children, as it confers stability to them and self-confidence. We have seen that character is power. Now, this power needs to be very clear, is not a power that comes from an important position or because we are a wealthy people. Character does not come from an outside force, but an inner source. So character is power because it helps us align these 3 incredible, powerful energies that human beings have, which are thought, word, and action, and with which we build our reality and we influence society. And this 3-fold creative power of thought, word, and deed in a good character are focused on love, truth, and righteousness. And character confers peace as a consequence of acting in accordance with our inner truth, and develops into a culture of non-violence. It turns us into self-leaders because we have direction, and it is our fulcrum. It is our inner axis. Now, this little girl or boy, could be both, is not Superman because there's not an S, but in place of the S, there is the C for character, just to remind us that of coherency, cohesion, consistency with our values. So she is super character. And this is why she is connected to her inner axis, which is connected to love. And you know that in English, when someone has a good character, we say that person, she or he, has a sterling character. We use silver. If instead we would like to translate this idiomatic expression into Italian, we do not use silver, we use gold. And we say he or she has a golden character, which of course resounds with a heart of gold. And this brings us to 3 key words: value. We are talking about value, purity, and heart. And of course, when we put them together, what do we have? We have human excellence. And this is character. So character is beauty. And it is also, in Italian, this works better because the word carrot is part of the word character in Italian, but it resounds with it pretty much. So we can say this, that A carat is the unit of measure to measure the quality and purity of gold or diamonds and of our own character. And I'd like to end with this beautiful quote, which again explains the choice of the watch on the right side of these slides, because this tells us how to build a good character. This quote that says, watch your words, actions, and thoughts, and watch your character. Be sure that words, actions, and thoughts are consistent, are aligned, and watch your heart. Be sure that your character, made of words, thoughts, and actions, is embedded in love. So thank you very much for your attention. It's been wonderful sharing all this with you.
Thank you very, 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 very much, dear Suzanne. It's been a wonderful, wonderful explanation and clarifying way to really work on our character and be aware of the importance of it. So thank you very much. It's been beautiful, totally beautiful. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Really. And now we have 10 minutes for questions and answers. So everyone who wants to ask a question, please write it in the chat box. Okay? But I can see that I have received a question in the private chat. And it says something that we would like to clarify a little bit more. There is sometimes people have a very strong character and can even become arrogant. So why does this happen? Because the word character sometimes has got different interpretation in the normal language that we use. So we would like to know this.
Thank you. Thank you for this question, Elena. This is a very important question because, as you said, it allows us to clarify something fundamental that we need to really understand. And we many times mix, we overlap, we mistake character for personality, or for personality for character. We use these two, they resemble each other, they are related to each other, but they actually are two different things. And our personality is something very subjective, which is based on our behavior. And our character, as we have seen, is something that we build. We build, and is, as we have said, that it is the measure of how embedded the values, we are talking about a good character, of course, how the values and our moral principles are within us. So a person of good character, in my opinion, will never be arrogant. This could perhaps be a personality, a very strong personality, who is not yet refined his or her character, where a person with character has embedded the values, and among the values we have values such as tolerance and humility and understanding. And these are values that will not allow us to overcome people with our strength. The strength of character that we spoke of, as I tried to explain, is the strength that we derive from this unity of thought, word, and deed. And this unity brings a lot of clarity. Our focus becomes very, very clear. We know what to do. As I said, we are stable, and our thoughts guide us, and they are good thoughts, ideal thoughts, noble thoughts. So this confers a lot of strength. Plus, we do not lose our energy, because many times when we think something, we do something else, and we act or we say something else, we are actually losing a lot of energy. So this capacity to concentrate and to bring together thought word indeed is building our energy. It becomes very empowering for us. So I hope that this is sufficient as an answer to this question, which is very important.
Yeah, so it is like it's a bit different to the word character, like to the word temper or temperamental.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Suzanne. Let's see if there are some more questions. Let's see, they're here in the chat box. People are telling that they love the presentation, that there are no many questions. They love this outstanding presentation, a creative and inspiring talk. They are appreciating comments to your presentation.
Thank you. Thank everyone.
But still, I could ask another question. What we do where someone we know has a weak character, or what we call, or we think that it's a weak character, how can we help them to make it stronger or to strengthen their character?
Yes, this is also very important. I'm sure that many times we face a situation which we also have some expectations from people, and we feel that they have a weak character. Let's define it like this. But actually, perhaps the character has not yet been sufficiently built. So they need some time. And it makes me think of what Satyasai says, that we are not one person, but three people. We are the person we think we are the person others see and think we are, but then we are actually who we really are. So I think that we need mostly to believe in the potential of this person, and know that everyone has within him or her the same inherent values that can be cultivated. So we need to see that they are a character, and perhaps we can help them, guide them in some way by being an example or by offering them some inspiration, so that they can gradually begin this process of becoming more aware of how important character is. Because what is important about this process is that we are aware that we are going through this process. We are conscious of what we are doing. We know that we are taking our thoughts to our hearts, and we are asking for guidance, for the approval. We are comparing our thought with the value of our moral principles and values. So this is something we are doing consciously. And this is a very important aspect of building our character. It does not happen by chance. We are totally present, and we are participating in this process. And of course, as Marianne explained so well during her presentation, we cannot really change other people. We can only change ourselves. So if it becomes difficult sometimes with other people, we can, of course, work on our own patience and tolerance and understanding. And as I said, especially continue to believe that they have the potential within them to build this character. And so we do not see them as being weak. So in this way, we can help them very much.
Thank you, dear Suzanne. There is also something that came into my mind now, because there are no more questions, but I think that people is appreciating so much the way that you explained. But there's one question here now. It says, is society, sorry. The question is society really that important for a person to know that he or she has a good character traits and is growing as a person? Is society's response really a reliable feedback?
Now, I have to say today, as I said at the beginning, we are really facing challenging times. And I said this, our society, our world is changing rapidly. But what is also happening around us, and I'm sure you all agree and have noticed this very well, is that it is becoming more and more difficult to identify what truth is and what truth is not, or what is right and what is wrong. So honestly, I feel that what's most important is to not look outwards to know if society is responding to us or is telling us if we have a good character or not on the basis of society's standards. I would continue to look within and to base my understanding on my own values. So my measure for understanding if I have a good character or not, or if I need to refine my character, comes from within, comes from introspection, from looking at myself. And I don't think it depends so much on society. Society sometimes can be a mirror for us. So it can help us go within and question ourselves. But I think that the real source of understanding connected to our own character comes from within ourselves, from our own watch method that we just said before.
Yes. Thank you very, very much, Suzanne. And there is a last question for this part. It says, would a strong tool to strengthen character be the meditation? Any other suggestions for tools?
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, when we talk about children, we speak about silent sitting. Absolutely, meditation is fundamental to be able to stabilize again in our conscience, in our higher self, in our loving heart, as Marianne said so beautifully, and to become stable. And this stability is our axis. And meditation is, I think, one of the most important tools, if not the most important tool, that when we can practice, and as we practice, we see how stabilized we become. And of course, when we meditate or when we sit in silence and we connect to these beautiful inner values, to the light, we connect to the light. As a consequence, we are increasing, we are strengthening, we are reinforcing with goodness, beauty, and truth these values. So definitely meditation, silent sitting, and are fundamental ways to strengthen and reinforce and refine our character. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So this is a really good tool, and it's a key to our inner stability, and that's great. And so we'll find out, apart from this, what to do later on. So now we're going to have 5-minute break, and after the break we will have a workshop to learn and to practice more about this cultivation of our character. So we see you in 5 minutes.